Americans that exist in the land of 10,000 lakes as far as economics, health, or education are concerned. The gaps result from the uneven distribution of resources and the unbalanced access to the levers of power. Coupled with these significant obstacles to the quality of our lives is the rising level of violence that is visiting our neighborhoods in Minneapolis and St. Paul. Too many of our community have suffered loss of life, and many more have been left wounded and crippled with diminished prospects. We gather here today to confront the harsh realities of our situation. We recognize that there is no set of cavalry that is being dispatched to deliver our people from the onslaught of difficulties we face. And we rise as African American churches and allies to announce our own diagnosis of this time in which we live and our own formulation of solution. First of all, we're clear concerning that which is set before us. While the unprecedented level of violence that we are experiencing must be addressed directly, we are sanguine that this is a symptom of issues that must be dealt with, not the core of the matter. The gang conflicts are, to use the language of family therapy, a presenting issue. And while requiring strenuous response, this is not the core of the challenge. This carnage is a symptom of the problem, and while just as a fever must be dealt with, the root cause of the illness must be addressed, or a fever, even if temporarily reduced, will resurface as a larger and more difficult matter. But this fever has root causes that must be dealt with. Our village has been and continues to be traumatized by economic deprivation that manifests in various forms. One particularly insidious manifestation is that our mechanisms for youth socialization and constructive intergenerational interaction have suffered years in which funding to allow our agencies to organize and deploy neighborhood teams and youth alternative activities, or even to engage youth workers, withered because others didn't and don't consider these matters worthy of priority when funding is allocated. Making matters worse is the lack of economic opportunity. A paucity of jobs reflected in extremely high unemployment rates and scarce entrepreneurial outlets sets a negative tone. Opportunities are limited, and even the ability to access the small pool is limited for our youth. The state of Minnesota reports that over 100,000 people between the ages of 25 to 44 face barriers to dream realization because of a lack of gateway educational credentials, such as an adult diploma or GEDs. Too high a percentage of that number are our people. Consequences of the war on drugs and discriminatory sentencing sent incarceration rates in our community soaring, resulting in disproportionate felony records that further restrict employment for our youth. One additional powerful concern for us is the fact that our entire community exists in a constant state of post-traumatic stress. The violence to our psyches from the fact of life that is called racism rears up in so many aspects of our daily lives, coupled with the physical violence that is intensified in our inner cities, where the cycles of violence, grief, revenge, and more violence do us no service. These need specific attention. Into this diagnosis comes a response strategy from our community that takes advantage of the power of our faith in action. Central to our action is an immediate, aggressive intervention strategy to reconnect with our youth through the deployment of youth workers. As I stated earlier, these are not activities the broader society seems funding pump. African American denominations and churches have pledged to contribute $100,000 over the next 12 months to engage youth workers in our communities to connect with our most alienated youth. The Minneapolis Urban League has agreed to be the fiscal agent receiving and dispersing these funds to our village champions. We look to work with the One Love effort led by Harry Spike Moss in Minneapolis, and the God Squad in St. Paul, convened by Reverend Darrell Spence and Bishop DeVar Kemp. As I've said, the violence is a presenting issue, so we're taking further important steps. We're working with Reverend Richard Coleman and Hope United CDC to provide employment opportunities. The Unity Opportunities Collaborative to develop specific job and training opportunities. The Unity Opportunities Collaborative consists of Minneapolis Urban League, Sabathani, the Emerge, the Stair Step Foundation, and Amen. We're working to aggressively destigmatize the GED process and build clear roads to progress. Most critically, we're moving to build the capacity of our community to provide mental health services. We're training pastors, lay leaders, and our youth workers in mental health first aid. And we're working with the Black psychologists to have our critical services more available to our people. All these actions are part of a coordinated effort of the African American Church to assert our historic role and accept the responsibility to nurture, protect, and provide for our people. This is our resolve and our commitment. We do recognize, and as we hope others will, that we are all of us tied under that which will afflict others. Cancer doesn't stop at any known border. We press forward and we look for and we welcome partnership from government, business, and philanthropy. At this point, if there are questions, we would happily receive them.
How many youth workers are you talking about placing in the
The number of youth workers depends on the amount of resources. Our desire is as large as it possibly can be. Initially, we anticipate we'll be able to start with 5 or 10, but we'd hope to expand that number.
Are you hoping the initial money that you got from the congregations, different denominations, will be matched by government? Will be matched by some type of state agency or something?
I think what we hope is that government, philanthropy will recognize the crisis of this time and the importance to join together. We met, many of us, with the mayor of the city of Minneapolis to share with her the fact that we were launching this initiative and the fact that these pastors and denominations feel seriously enough about this that from their resources, which are not necessarily great, that they were going to commit $100,000 with the idea that that might prompt others to recognize the seriousness and the capacity of the church to respond. And I'd say one other thing. Too often, others try to impose answers on our community, as opposed to joining our community when it puts forth its own answer. We're hoping others will join in.
What do you say to people in the community who want to do something themselves, who want that help, who may not be a part of a church or a congregation, but are a part of the community and want to do something themselves?
Well, the church has always been open for everybody. The church, as if that's just the people that come on Sunday morning. Whenever anybody has a problem in our community, the first resort is usually to the church. It doesn't matter if they've ever been to the church. They know that the church cares and will reach out to try to provide resources. So this is an